It's February 29th. Happy Leap Day to you. I'm Julie Moran.
And I'm Olga Villaverde. Do you actually know anyone who was born in a leap year?
No.
I know. Neither do I.
Did you know that 0.7% of the world's population was born on a leap day?
Well, I didn't know the exact figure, but I do know leap days only come once every 4 years. So to have a leap year birthday is obviously very rare indeed.
So true. And it's so appropriate that on this rare leap day, it's also World Rare Disease Day.
So appropriate here. As you know, we here at the Balancing Act are dedicated to rare diseases, and that's why we have our ongoing rare disease series called Behind the Mystery.
It's our way of keeping you informed and bringing you some of the most incredible stories of courage and medical advances. We're wearing and holding our denim ribbons in support right here.
Yes, and matter of fact, coming up later this month, you're going to meet a beautiful little girl who became that proverbial 1 in a million when she was diagnosed with one of the rarest diseases in existence.
And by 1 in a million, you literally mean it. Only occurs 1 in every million births, right?
Exactly. These diseases are known to so few people worldwide, so today we are thrilled to raise awareness for all rare disease patients everywhere.
Stay with us. The Balancing Act starts right now. Up first, we're bringing back one of the most touching stories. Imagine you watch your own mother pass away tragically of a rare genetic disease before she even reaches the age 50.
That is so sad, but imagine having to then watch and wait, looking for the same symptoms of the same deadly disease in yourself.
It's just one of the devastating circumstances faced by today's rare disease patients, including our first guest.
He's young, he's talented, and as you're about to see, he's passionate about using his own family's rare disease tragedy for a greater good. Here's Balancing Act correspondent Chris Cox.
Dylan Duncan is a songwriter and musician. He's also one of 50,000 patients impacted by Transthyretin-Mediated Amyloidosis, or ATTR.
I went in for my genetic testing at the age of 26. And so I found out I had the gene for the disease, and a year later I went in and got a fat pad biopsy, which was then determined, which was used to determine whether or not symptoms had started.
Dylan Duncan has been John Berk's patient for nearly 8 years. They know each other well.
We met first in 2007, and at the time he was, I think, 27 years old. He had watched his mother become ill and undergo a liver transplant and subsequently die. ATTR is a hereditary disease that culminates in injury to nerves in particular, and secondarily to the heart.
Dylan was 27 when he was diagnosed, but for him, it came as no surprise.
How old was your mother when she was actually diagnosed?
I want to say 37, 38. I know she was sick for about 5 years, and she passed away when she was 45.
The abnormal gene is passed from a parent to the patient, and it's approximately a 50-50 proposition every time an affected parent has the child. People will typically develop some burning, tingling, or numbness initially of their toes, and there is evolution up the leg till they reach approximately knee involvement, at which point their fingertips and hands become involved. There can also be remarkable dysfunction of the GI tract, so that diarrhea or profound constipation can be problematic.
First symptoms that I was experiencing of amyloidosis were the carpal tunnel, which is that they say I think 1 in 4 patients experience. But it was very strange. Like I would feel like a complete numbness in my entire arm, and I'd have to hang my arm over the bed and just get the feeling back. And that happened around 26, 27. That's why I went in to get tested. Things were starting to develop with my gastrointestinal issues and numbness more in my calves. I was experiencing, and I've heard that a lot of the numbness will happen kind of starting in the feet and going upwards.
While currently there are no drugs specifically approved for ATTR in the United States, there are limited treatment options.
There are clinical trials ongoing right now that are focused on not simply stabilizing the abnormal protein, but eliminating it completely.
New treatment options currently under development may give ATTR patients and their families hope for the future.
We imagine a world where patients with ATTR are living full, healthy, high-quality lives. But it's important for patients to get involved. Diagnosis is critical, so we ask patients to get heavily involved in their diagnosis and bring others, if they in fact do get diagnosed with TTR-mediated amyloidosis, in, because it is a dominant autosomal inherited disease.
Dylan Duncan continues to perform his favorite hobbies, such as painting. He also enjoys hanging with his group of supportive friends, and of course, he continues to play his guitar.
There's one particular song that you wrote called Hello, Amy. Tell us about that song.
Amy is short for amyloidosis, and so what I did is I actually wanted to just personify it and make it almost sound like it's a girl that you want out of your life, like an ex-girlfriend or something like that, you know. Hello, Amy, I didn't expect you here this soon. There are moments when I get really, really scared, especially since symptoms are starting to kind of show themselves, and it's hard not to think negatively sometimes, just seeing what happened with our mother. And but absolutely, I mean, there are so many new advances that weren't happening around the time that my mom was, or if they were, at least they weren't, being so widely explored, and it's very encouraging and very hopeful.
For more information on the free third-party screening program, go to ttrscreen.com or call toll-free 1-855-338-3721.
Like many young boys his age, 7-year-old Jackson Dunn Krause has many interests, and he loves hanging out with his twin sister. His parents say he is a funny kid and likes to laugh. This, despite his medical condition. Jackson has a rare, serious, and progressive genetic disorder that affects mostly boys. Jackson has Hunter syndrome, the topic of today's discussion on this rare disease day. Our guest this morning, Dr. Barbara Burton, a professor of pediatrics at Northwestern University, and Dr. David Moulter, a professor of otolaryngology, Washington University School of Medicine at St. Louis. And we're going to meet Jackson and his mother a little bit later in the show. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for being here. Dr. Burton, let me start with you, and let's talk about Hunter syndrome. What exactly is it?
Hunter syndrome, also referred to as mucopolysaccharidosis or MPS type 2, is a rare genetic disorder that affects males almost exclusively. It is estimated to occur in about 1 in every 162,000 births. It's a serious and progressive condition for which we currently have no cure.
And let's talk about, doctor, the physical symptoms that maybe a parent notices. When do they become noticeable? What happens?
Typically, a baby with Hunter syndrome appears healthy at birth, but then at some point in the early years of life, symptoms begin to develop in multiple organ systems. There can be recurrent respiratory and ear infections. We see changes in the facial features called coarsening, resulting in thick lips, broad nose, large tongue. We also see an enlarged abdomen from enlargement of the liver and spleen. There can be chronic or recurrent diarrhea. Hernias are quite common, and we see progressive symptoms in the skeleton and in the joints, particularly progressive stiffness of the joints.
Dr. Moulter, I want to bring you into the conversation, and I do want our viewers to know that you are a otolaryngologist, which is also known as an ENT specialist, ear, nose, throat. Do you see any common threads between, let's say, a baby that's born healthy and then obviously then symptoms occur. Common threads between both?
Certainly. Well, as an ear, nose, and throat specialist, we see things ear, nose, throat, and dental. And so often this begins with a course of recurring ear infections, which may lead to placement of tubes, sinus infections, upper respiratory infections, and changes in the facial features. We may see coarsening of the tongue, enlargements of the tonsils or adenoids, and may see some changes in the teeth, which are often described as being peg-like. These symptoms by themselves are certainly not a red flag and are common experiences with childhood. It's when they're associated with other findings, such as a hernia or the coarsening of the facial features, that should begin to raise a red flag for hunters.
Dr. Burton?
Exactly. I think when you see multiple medical issues in the same child, that's when you want to see if there's a common thread or diagnosis that would explain all of those. And so a pediatrician or an ENT doctor might get suspicious, and then a specialist like myself, a geneticist, can recognize the combination, order the appropriate diagnostic tests, and make a diagnosis.
And Dr. Moulter, for parents out there who may be experiencing this, they don't know what's going on, they're going from doctor to doctor, it can be extremely frustrating, it is their child. What would you say in terms of maybe educating them and helping them so they can find the answers they need?
Well, it certainly is challenging. It's when you find that you're reaching challenges outside of the norm that referral to a geneticist would be appropriate.
All right, Dr. Moulter, I know you have to get going. Dr. Burton, you're going to stick around because thank you so much, Dr. Moulter, for being here this morning. Because when we come back, we're going to meet Jackson and his mother, very special boy, and we're going to share their story with you, so stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. We've been discussing a serious progressive genetic disorder called Hunter syndrome. And joining us now are Carrie Dunn and her 7-year-old son, Jackson Dunn Krause, who has this disorder. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Thanks for being here. Doctor, before I speak to this lovely young man, let's talk about Hunter syndrome. Now, we talked about two forms, mild and severe. Which one does Jackson have?
Jackson has a mild or perhaps intermediate form of the disorder where there's little or no involvement of the brain. Many patients with Hunter syndrome have the severe form where the brain is more extensively involved and we see more severe developmental delay or loss of developmental skills.
Now, Jackson, I hear you're 7. When are you going to be 8 years old? Big boy.
On April.
What day in April?
April 28th.
April 28th.
Special day. And what grade are you in?
Second grade.
Second grade. And somebody told me this morning that you love school? What's your favorite subject?
Science and recess.
Science and recess. Perfect. We studied for a little while and then we go play. I love that answer.
Definitely.
Carrie, let's talk about Jackson. Tell me what happened. Obviously, from what I've been learning here, he was born and everything seemed healthy at the beginning?
That's a great question. When Jackson was first coming to us, we realized that we were having twins. So I was followed by a high-risk pregnancy physician. When he was born, he spent some time right away in the NICU because of a collapsed lung. So he was having some distress pulmonary issues. And he spent some time there, and then they handed us our healthy baby and said, go enjoy the twins. And Sydney was growing a little bit faster and gaining her milestones a little bit earlier. Jackson was showing some signs early on that distressed us a little bit in that he had a large distended belly. His skin was extremely taut. He was crawling what we'd like to call a commando crawl for quite a while, where his sister started walking.
And still you didn't know?
We didn't know, but we did seek the advice of numerous physicians, and we started therapies early on. Jackson started with occupational therapy, developmental therapy, speech therapy, sensory, feeding therapy, a little bit of everything, and this was all before he was 3.
And when was he finally diagnosed?
Right after his 3rd birthday. We had gotten a recommendation to see a geneticist, and as we went into the geneticist appointment, she discovered a hernia right away. So the red flag was he has a hernia, this large distended belly. His face was a little bit larger than most boys his age. The geneticist recommended that we see a metabolism specialist right away. And we were able to go into that appointment, and the doctor looked at us and said, I know what your son has. He has something called Hunter syndrome, otherwise known as MPS II.
And your reaction at that moment?
I was happy that I had a diagnosis.
I was thinking that.
I was devastated to know that my son would suffer for a while with many different ailments, but the road is a long road.
And doctor, let's talk about that road. 3 years to get a diagnosis, 3 years of a mother knowing, something's not right here. She gets the diagnosis. Is Jackson's history typical for patients with Hunter syndrome?
Well, unfortunately, it is typical that a patient sees multiple physicians, many doctor visits for a lot of different complaints until they finally get that diagnosis. The specific combination of findings varies quite a bit from child to child, but certainly that diagnostic odyssey of searching for a diagnosis is a very, very common phenomenon.
And Carrie, obviously you're here today because we need to create that awareness and educate others about this Hunter syndrome. Support groups, did they help you also once you got that diagnosis?
Most definitely. The support of your family and friends is very important, but then we reached out right after that appointment and we found a connection through the National MPS Society. They were a great resource for families just to learn about the disease, but also to help you in this journey that you're taking. The website for that is www.mpssociety.org, and I'd be just tremendous amount of help for us as a family.
And doctor, what advice would you give to parents out there who may suspect that maybe their child has Hunter syndrome?
Well, if there are multiple medical issues like we've been discussing, I would recommend they talk to their pediatrician and seek consultation from a specialist like a geneticist. Early diagnosis is so terribly important to ensure that a child gets the appropriate medical care.
And do you have a website for our viewers to learn more about it?
Well, information is available at a website called hunterpatients.com.
Hunterpatients.com.
Yes.
Carrie, for anyone out there who may be, experiencing this or may not know, what would you say?
I would say please just follow your gut. Go with your instincts. You know as a parent that if something's just not right, search till you find the answer.
Thank you so much for your time and for the education you've given us this morning. Carrie, thank you so much for bringing your son and sharing his story. Jackson, thank you so much. Do you get along with your sister? That's good, too. Thank you. God bless him.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Bye, Jackson. Thank you. And for more information on managing Hunter syndrome, please visit hunterpatients.com or our website, thebalancingact.com.
And now it's time to celebrate, and no one deserves a celebration more than the rare disease patients scattered around the world but bound together by their strength.
There are about 7,000 rare genetic diseases that affect more than 30 million Americans and millions more worldwide. The Balancing Acts Behind the Mystery series has highlighted many of them. Time is against them. It often takes over 7 years to reach a proper diagnosis, and an astounding 95% of rare diseases have no FDA-approved treatment. The Global Genes Summit is out to change all of that through the Global Genes Initiative. The 4th annual Global Genes Rare Patient Advocacy Summit and Gala took place in beautiful Huntington Beach, California. And this year, Hollywood took note. It's the 2015 tribute to champions of hope. Celebrity presenters included Bryce Dallas Howard, Jason Ritter, and Lindsay Shaw.
I'm so happy to be here. Rare disease awareness is what's up.
It's going to be a great night for learning and a great night for communities coming together and supporting each other.
Rare disease patient advocate and radio host Scott Froggy Langley played master of ceremonies for the evening's festivities. And American Idol Season 8 winner and platinum recording artist Chris Allen took the stage with 12-year-old Global Patient Ambassador honoree Ben Liu for a very special performance. In all, more than 800 patients, philanthropists, advocacy leaders, and celebrities came together to raise over $1.2 million for rare disease research, education, and patient support.
What Global Genes is really working to accomplish is to bring this community together to create a support network that expands beyond the disease. And it's an honor to be working with all of those affected by rare disease that are just incredibly courageous.
Let's toast.
To get involved, donate, or join the rare disease community, simply log on to globalgenes.org for more information.
We want want to leave you with a few great resources for rare disease awareness and advocacy today.
And we hope you've been inspired to support these brave patients and caregivers in their fight to survive.
And don't forget to log on to thebalancingact.com for all these great stories.
You can also always follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Remember, find your balance. So long, everybody.
Wardrobe provided by Stage Stores.